What can I say, guys? Spooky season's right around the corner and I got a little excited. There is something demonic in human nature that we are unable to stop revering. These great historical figures we admire for their conquest, their drive, their ambition, and the progress they are said to have been responsible for. But would we have not been better off as a species without them? It's all so goddamn fragile, your life and the threads you carry it on, but what choice do any of us have? Nobody can chart the shape of their life before that shape emerges. It is the grandest, most irreducible mystery of all. Fear finds a home in you. It finds the softest spots imaginable, and it sets up residence. They call me Master. They recognize me as the highest power. I have given you and your kind life. I have taught you the secrets of power and sorcery. I have taught you what it means to be a king. But you are not invincible. I didn't feel evil. I felt nervous, scared, nothing more. By doing one thing wrong, I thought I could make everything right. I am possessed by ideas that are as old as humanity. I'm possessed. Only I'm possessed by something so much older and cooler than Satan. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back today to talk a little TBR, and this one is my favorite TBR of the year because it is spooky season, guys. If you are new to the channel, just join. Spooky season is what I call the month of October. Obviously, that's not anything super original, as that is the time of year where it feels like everyone's entitled to one good scare, right? And so I always like to kind of put a focus on the horror genre for the month of October. It's something I kind of started about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and just kind of rolled with it. Really what this is, guys, I just wanted to kind of put an emphasis on horror books that aren't just Stephen King or Lovecraft. Because when people would always ask me, what are some horror books you recommend? I noticed all I was doing was recommending Stephen King and Lovecraft, and I wanted to expand my horizons a little bit. So I have actually got some nice recommendations and some opinions that I thought were pretty valuable for me selecting what I'm going to pick here for the month of October. So yes, I am doing this one a little earlier than usual since we are still about, 12 days away from the month of October here. With this one, I usually do get a lot of participation in October. So for anybody who wants to join me, get their TBR cleaned up, they want to be able to get, secure copies of all these books in time and want to read along with me, they can do this. That's why this one's a little earlier than every other TBR video, which I usually do, like the last week of each month. So a little head start in this one for special circumstances, guys. So with this, again, these are not necessarily the order I'm going to read them in. I usually plan to do it that way, but it doesn't quite happen that way. But I do have 6 books that I'm going to kind of talk about here. If you weren't able to decipher the nice quotes at the beginning of this video, I will let you know now what these books are. First up, guys, last year I read The Troop by Nick Cutter and I loved it. And I said, I want to keep that Halloween train rolling this year with Little Heaven by the main man. Now this guy here, I love The Troop. Little Heaven and The Deep seem to get mixed reactions. So I'm going to kind of see where I fall on Nick Cutter here because I love The Troop. I thought it was very Carrie-ish, the way that it was written. Very, very Stephen King, kind of a hat tip, the way that he does his narrative in that story. So I liked it enough to give another thing a try. When I read Blood Meridian, I wasn't wild about it. I said, but I do want me something that was kind of Western horror-ish. Now, I don't know if this necessarily falls under that umbrella, but kind of the description, that's kind of how I feel about it. A little bit of bone tomahawk in the description there. As for that description, guys, what is this book about? Well, a trio of mismatched mercenaries, known informally as the Englishmen, are hired by young Ellen Belhaven for a deceptively simple task. Check in on her nephew, who may have been taken against his will to a remote New Mexico backwoods settlement called Little Heaven, where a clandestine religious cult holds away. But shortly after they arrive, things begin to turn ominous. There are stirrings in the woods, and the brooding shape of a monolith, known as the Black Rock, casts its terrible shroud. Paranoia and distrust soon grips the settlement, and escape routes are gradually cut off as events spiral towards madness. Hell, or the closest thing to it, invades little heaven. All present here are now forced to take a stand and fight back. But whatever has cast its dark eye on little heaven is marshaling its power, and it wants them all. That sounds very, very creepy. That's definitely the one I think I'm going to start off spooky season with. Next up, guys, I have an author. I don't have a digital one. I do have digital on the next three here. I don't have them on physical. We're going to talk about each in turn here, but I'll make sure I'll put it up on the screen here so you guys are able to find it. If you're looking for it, an author I've gotten recommended to me to a ton by Stephen King fans is Adam Neville. Now, I've watched the movie The Ritual on Netflix. Loved it. Thought it was great. So I thought that's where I would start with Adam Neville. But I said, you know what? Why don't I try something else just so I have a completely fresh sense of what Adam Neville's like without any expectations. And I chose Last Days. Now, Adam Neville is an author. It seems like I get that recommendation a lot, but I also get a lot of people to say, look, I've tried him though, and he wasn't really for me. You might like him a little more. Now, people that have told me that aren't necessarily huge Stephen King fans like me. Now, again, it isn't a prerequisite for me for someone to be like Stephen King. What does set the bar a little high is when someone says, yeah, I think you'll like it because you like Stephen King. So I've gotten both kind of recommendations. You know, I think you'll like it, and I think you'll like it because you like Stephen King. But he has been kind of labeled as the English Stephen King here as far as new authors go. Somewhat new. I mean, he's been writing for a good decade plus now. But obviously, if your stuff's good enough now that you're getting picked up for adaptations, you're doing something right. Because I've seen, I think, 3 of his movies, including this one, I believe, has been adapted already. But as for Last Days, what is this one about? Well, when guerrilla documentary maker Kyle Freeman is asked to shoot a film on the notorious cult known as the Temple of the Last Days, it appears his prayers have been answered. The cult became a worldwide phenomenon in 1975 when there was a massacre, including the death of its infamous leader, Sister Catherine. Kyle's brief is to explore the paranormal myths surrounding an organization that's become a testament to paranoia, murderous rage, and occult rituals. The shoot's locations take him to the cult's first temple in London, an abandoned farm in France, and a derelict copper mine, where the Temple of the Last Days met its bloody end. But when he interviews those involved in the case, those who haven't broken silence in decades, a series of uncanny events plague the shoots. Troubling out-of-body experiences, nocturnal visitations, and the sudden demise of their interviewees, and the discovery of ghastly artifacts in the room make Kyle question what exactly it is the cult has managed to awaken, and what is its interest in him. So yes, it sounds like one of those, hey, we're just going to go do this, and then it's going to go straight to hell and spooky stuff. That sounds great, guys. That's what this month is all about, right? So I'll be very, very anxious. I've bought I think 8 to 10 Adam Neville books already because I just feel like he's an author I'm going to vibe with. But, you know, that first impression is always very, very important. So Last Days, I hope I picked the right one. That was the one that was recommended to me the most besides The Ritual. And so that's why it's the one that I went with. Next up, guys, I do really enjoy Robert McCammon. I've read 3 of his books. 2 of them are all-timers for me. Boy's Life and Swan Song are all-time books for me. They're just amazing. I read one of his on Halloween last year, the Wolf's Hour, and it was fine. It wasn't quite, I'm not really big into like period piece spy dramas, and that's kind of what it was. I just wanted a werewolf story. So I said, what works better? How about Vampires? Because They Thirst is a book that has come recommended to me a ton. Now, with Robert McCammon, obviously you're going to get those Stephen King parallels as well, because I think if you've read Swan Song and if you've read Boy's Life, people are like, wow, it's the best books ever written by Stephen King that weren't written by Stephen King. The reason that Stephen King's name is coming up so much in this video, guys, is because I make a lot of Stephen King content on the channel, and that means a lot of Stephen King readers will say, hey, Mike, I know you love this. I think you'll like that. So that's why all 3 of these first 3 authors I've talked about, obviously, I'm bringing up Stephen King because that's the recommendation. I really went heavy off of recommendations this year. But They Thirst is one that said, hey, I know how much you like Salem's Lot, so kind of change Salem's Lot to maybe Los Angeles, and maybe you would find something that you enjoy there. So again, I don't know if it's fair to Robert McCammon to always put him parallel to Stephen King, but I would say, hey, there's probably worse authors to be compared to, right? But what is They Thirst about? No, it is not about Henry Cavill fans. It is about vampires, guys. It looked like another ordinary day in Los Angeles. And then night came. Evil as old as the centuries has descended upon the city of angels. It comes as a kiss from that terrifying but seductive immortal. Slowly at first, then by the legions. The ravenous undead choke Los Angeles with bloodthirsty determination, and the hordes of monstrous victims steadily mount each night. High above Glitter City, a deadly contest begins. In the decaying castle of a long-dead screen idol, a few remaining human survivors prepare to face the Prince of Evil and his satanic disciples, whilst the very force of nature are called into play, isolating the city from the rest of the world and leaving it at the mercy of blood-hungry vultures of the night. Prince Vulcan and an army of vampires invade the city of Los Angeles, their first step in a plan to conquer the world. So maybe, hey, a little bit of mustache-twirling bad guys. I'm fine with that when it comes to vampires, guys. I love me some evil vampires. What I talked about recently, I miss when vampires were scary. So hopefully that's what we do get here. So I think McCammon is a very, very talented author. Like I said, he's 3 for 3 for me, even though I wasn't nuts about Wolf's Hour. You think about the shoes he had to fill after Swan Song and Boy's Life. Obviously, that was a very, very high bar for me. So taking a year away and now coming back to him again this Halloween before I start his Matthew Corbett series later on this year. I thought this would be a good way to kickstart back into Robert McCammon. Next up, guys, one that I actually meant to read a long time ago is I saw a trailer for the movie The Ruins. Now, this is a book by Scott Smith. And I said, oh, that looks really cool. But you know what? I didn't know it was based on a book. How about I pick up the book first before I watch the movie? Well, guys, that was years ago. And I still never picked up that book until recently. I was talking to Rachel over at Shades of Orange, and I had her on for a talk about nothing. And she had the book in the background. I was like, I want to read that. So I made a mental note to add it to my spooky season list this year. She says she's anxious to see how I'm going to feel about it because she says it can go either way. My homie Jaime Enfuego over at the Horror Channel has kind of said the same thing. So I'll be interested to see. I mean, I'm fine with some good body horror if it is done right. I like stumbling upon some places maybe where we shouldn't be and there's something infecting our bodies and just making us lose control. That's always something that's a lot of fun when you visit the horror genre. I mean, I am a Lovecraft fan, and Color Out of Space is one of my favorite stories by him. So I'm excited to give this one a try. But what is The Ruins about, you might ask? Well, two young couples are on a lazy Mexican vacation. Sun-drenched days, drunken nights, making friends with fellow tourists. But when the brother of one of those friends disappears, they decide to go and look for him. Moving into the wild interior, they begin to suspect that there is an insidious other among them. What started out as a fun day trip slowly spirals into a nightmare when they find the remote Mayan ruin site of a fabled archaeological dig and the terrifying presence that lurks there. Again, I know there's something about a vine. I know there's something about, I believe we get infected. It sounds very much, the description almost kind of sounds like The Troop, but for grown-ups. That's kind of what it sounds like because, The Troop was about, Cub Scouts, basically. Sure, you got a little bit of body horror in there. You got a little bit of just going through ancient civilizations, things like that. And anytime you mess with the Mayans, that sounds like a lot of fun, right? Remember when the world was going to end in 2012? Oh, man, Mayans. Maybe they were just a little late. You never know. But I'm excited to finally get that one off of the list. The next one, guys, this is one that probably you would think that I wouldn't really be interested in because, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of the people that recommend it aren't really the big horror readers. But when I talked to Fonda Lee on the channel, that's the author of the Greenbone Saga, one that she recommended to me that she was reading, that she was really enjoying, because she does really enjoy horror, was Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. Now, with this, it does, when I read the synopsis, I was like, that sounds like something, I don't know, that my wife would be watching on Netflix or something. But I'm going to trust Fonda Lee on this one because she does seem to know her horror, and I'm going to kind of roll with that one here. But this one, I feel like a lot of people have picked it up recently. I've heard lots of feedback on it. It's another one that people are like, I don't know how you're going to feel about it, Mike. And I think I'm going to get that way with all these. I don't know. I think maybe I've come to be expected one thing when it comes to horror is I just like good slice of life and I like some good terror. I like some horror that makes you uncomfortable. But you know what? I like a good character study as well. I mean, I am still a character first reader even when it comes to horror. So if you make me care about your characters, I'm going to be in that. And when you are dealing with young coming of age protagonists that are dealing with duress under supernatural problems, I think that's always something that has kind of meshed with me. And that's kind of what this sounds like it is in a way, with a little bit of a modern kind of twist to it. So Head Full of Ghosts, guys, what is this one about? Well, the lives of the Barretts, a normal suburban New England family, are torn apart when 14-year-old Marjorie begins to display signs of acute schizophrenia. As their home devolves into a house of horrors, they reluctantly turn to a local Catholic priest for help. Father Wonderly suggests an exorcism, and he also contacts a production company that is eager to document the Barrett's plight. With the medical bills looming, the family agrees to be filmed and soon find themselves unwitting stars of The Possession, a hit reality television show. When events in the Barrett household explode in tragedy, the show and the shocking incidents it captures become the stuff of urban legend. 15 years later, a best-selling writer interviews Marjorie's younger sister Mary as she recalls those long ago events, long buried secrets, and painful memories that clash with what was broadcast on television. And a mind-bending tale of psychological horrors unleashed, raising vexing questions about memory and reality, science and religion, and the very nature of evil. So I like a good exorcism story, guys. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I was going to do the exorcism of, not exorcism of Emily Rose. That's a movie I was going to watch. My best friend's exorcism was one that I was going to do. So I guess this is a good time as any to tell you guys that I know that I really neglected this genre on the channel. I know it says for fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. And I'm trying to do more sci-fi than I have, but I still feel like horror has been really, really neglected. I want to get to the point to where I'm not doing this just in October. I want to kind of fit one in here and there, no matter when. Of course, I would still focus October on horror because, that's the time of the season when everybody's in the mood. But I'd like to get some more of these on here. So, my best friend's exorcism, that'll be one probably I'm slipping in before next spooky season. So I just thought I'd bring that up. But this, it sounds weird. It sounds like, okay, we're going to be doing hey, it's my exorcism from a TikTok. I don't know. We shall see how that kind of feels. But like I said, I think Rachel's the one who told me she wasn't sure if I was going to like the protagonist at all. Now, I don't have to like a protagonist. I can find them completely annoying if I still feel like they're written well. If they're written... I could have characters that, Scarlett O'Hara annoys me, and she's one of my favorite characters ever, So I'm okay with that, having an unlikable protagonist as long as they are written well, and I can understand why they are the way that they are, not just being, a pain in the ass for no reason. But you're dealing with a teenage girl with acute schizophrenia. Yeah, who knows? They might get on your nerves a little bit. But we shall see, guys. I do love a good exorcism story, especially with this nice little, the Osbournes kind of twist on it here. So next up, guys, I have this one as a maybe. And again, I've got 5 books listed here. It's a regular month. I've got other things that I want to do, but I want to make sure that I don't overload myself. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do at least this because this is a very short one. I'm talking about Michael McDowell's Blackwater Saga. Now, I see that you're seeing that this big giant thing are like, well, you just said it was a short one. This has 6 books in one. So what I am planning to do is volume 1, which is called The Flood. This is another one that was recommended off of my love for Stephen King's slice of life and his way of telling a family drama over a stretch of decades. This is about the Caskey family, and their plight as this girl just kind of washes up on shore after a big flood here. But I guess I'll go ahead and let the synopsis tell you what this one is about. So in the small town of Perdido, Alabama, a stranger arrives under mysterious circumstances on Easter Sunday, 1919, after a major flood. On the surface, the girl named Eleanor is gracious, charming, anxious to belong in Perdido, and eager to marry Oscar Caskey, the eldest son of Perdido's first family. But her beautiful exterior hides a shocking secret. Beneath the waters of the Perdido River hides something terrifying, a creature whispered about in stories that have chilled the residents of Perdido for generations. Some of those who observe the rituals in the river will never be seen again. I think I get more of a kind of a Lovecrafty vibe, or maybe a little bit of what I wanted The Fisherman to be. Guys, The Fisherman, I know it's a very, very popular book, but it kind of missed with me. My problems with that book, guys, are well documented. I think with that one, it's just, it wanted to be 2 books in one. I was just like, did you want to be a period book or do you want to be a current day book? Anyway, with this, it sounds like, okay, it's going to be taking place in one setting. Maybe this is a little bit more of what I wanted. So based off that description, I'm expecting things to get a little tentacly, because you got a flood washing in some unknown creatures. Maybe it's going to get a little tentacly, and that's always going to make me think of Lovecraft. But again, I'm only kind of committing to volume 1 because there are 6 in here. Like I said, if I love it, yeah, I'm going to continue with it. But it might not all get done in October. So that's why I said it's got 6 volumes, and this one really, really handsome collector's edition, by the way, which is just awesome. I mean, that's just too cool. I mean, honestly, I saw that cover, and I thought it was a manga. That's what it looked like to me. But yeah, excited about it because I feel like Michael McDowell is an author that does have a little bit of a legacy. And when you start digging back into some of this, I get so many recommendations for modern horror, and I am excited to discover new modern horror authors. Still there's plenty of the classics I haven't went back to, and this one's supposed to be quite legendary. So you guys might notice that it's all horror here, and I am kind of running through a couple of books in series right now, so I got to list these under If Time, and I'll have to explain. If Time, obviously, is Tiamat's Wrath. That's book number 8 of The Expanse. And Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb. That is the first book that fits in the full trilogy, the final trilogy of the Realm of the Eldlings. Now, if I'm doing my one per month, Obviously, these are going to fall in October, but since this is a special month dealing with horror, if these two kind of slide and I have to do them in November, I have to kind of double up in November, December, then I'll go ahead and do that. I am going to be finishing Realm of the Eldlings and The Expanse in 2023. So if I got to kind of slide those a little bit, just depends on how fast I get through these. Now, the cool thing about horror, guys, is us epic fantasy readers, we're going to blow through these a little quick because you know why? Even at their longest, they're like 400 pages, you know, so we're going to blow through these pretty quick. So I'm excited to get into this month, and I don't imagine I wouldn't at least probably get to that Expanse book because I'm really anxious with the Expanse, the way the book 7 had that major cliffhanger. But October, guys, it's about the scares, it's about the jumps, about the frights. I am excited to get more people interested in reading some of these, hopefully, because I do feel like horror is a genre that kind of gets looked down upon on BookTube almost kind of like a niche thing. Sci-fi and fantasy kind of dominates it, and romance. But, you know, I'm saying of those three that I covered, horror, even by myself, has kind of got neglected a little bit, and I want to kind of start to correct that. So, yeah, I'm excited to get into it, and I hope you guys will join me for some of them. So, guys, do you like any of these? Are there any you think I'm going to like? Is there any that you've read that you think I'm going to hate? I would love to know down below. If not, guys, tell me what your plans are for spooky season. Are you picking up anything scary this October? I would love to know about it because I am going to start growing that horror TBR just a little bit. I know several of you are going to say Ronald Malfi, and I'll just tell you guys, I got plans for that. It's just not happening in October. So drop in the comments, guys, and I will talk to you there.